To tonight's information session regarding the recent flood activities within our community. I'm your Mayor, Shane Sarley. Before we go any further, I would like to acknowledge that we, Greater Shepparton City Council, acknowledge the Yorta peoples of the land which now comprises Greater Shepparton. We pay our respect to their tribal elders, we celebrate their continuing culture, and we acknowledge the memory of their ancestors. Greater Shepparton CEO Peter Harriott, who is sitting next to me, will chair the information session tonight, and we will hear from the many key agencies that are sitting with us tonight. Peter will also detail the format of tonight and how we can best answer your questions to give you the most confidence heading into the recovery stage. Peter.
Thanks, Shane. We've got several people on the panel tonight, and we'll attempt to provide as much information as possible. And it's also an opportunity for you to ask questions. We have various council staff here tonight that have been doing a range of tasks during this emergency. But if there's questions, for example, in relation to the emergency relief centres and other aspects, we hope to be able to give you some information. We've got with us also here tonight the independent member for Shepparton, Susanna Sheed, Wendy Lovell, the member for Northern Victoria. We have the federal member for Nichols, Sam Birrell, and we've got Lana Young from the federal government. We do have councillor representatives here, Councillor Adam, Councillor Brophy and Councillor Dobson. So, welcome everybody. And of course we've got Ausland interpreter Linda here tonight. Thank you for doing your services tonight, Linda. And Linda has asked that we speak and pronounce our words clearly to assist with getting our message across tonight. So with that, I'll hand over to our first presenter tonight. Ray Jasper is the Regional Manager, Northern Region, for the Victorian SES, and has been doing a magnificent job with his colleagues up there in the Incident Control Centre, leading this response. So Ray, over to you for an overview, please.
Thank you, Peter. Look, I'll just give an overview, I guess, of today. So hopefully most people are getting the updates that are being sent out. So I guess the good news is the water is receding in the Greater Shepparton LGA. We've seen a good reduction today, which means we could drop a number of the emergency warnings. So we've certainly dropped the emergency warnings for Mooroopna this afternoon, Orvale, Murchison and Killara West have been dropped. We're hoping to do Shepparton tomorrow. We're just waiting for the water to get down to that moderate level and make sure that, I guess, the water has dissipated around the home so people can have access in there. And further downstream, I guess, on Bartha, we're hoping to do tomorrow. But I guess Barmer and Lowamora will be up till Saturday. The peak's still to go there, so even though I guess Greater Shepparton has receded, in Morrishire they're just feeling the bigger impact now in Barmer, Lowamora, which will peak sort of tomorrow afternoon. Tomorrow night, sometime it's about 20 centimetres higher than the 1993 flood in the space. So aiming to do what we can to get those emergency warnings, get people back in the space. Key tomorrow is we are going to try to do some door knocking in some of the more impacted areas tomorrow, just to make sure people are okay, make sure and I guess start to what we call initial impact assessment for Shepparton in looking at that above floor flooding. So the impact teams were certainly in Murchison today starting that impact assessment, and we'll certainly move into I guess Shepparton tomorrow as they move forward, and certainly Mooroopna tomorrow as well. I'll address the causeway now. I know the causeway, everyone's keen for the causeway to open, and everyone knows the water is off the causeway. The issue we currently have with the causeway is not the causeway itself, even though I guess Rural Roads Victoria are doing some work on it. It's allowing traffic, allowing emergency services, but there's still a lot of water, I guess, around Mooroopna, and to actually let people in with the Chuka Road closed and some of the road closed, VicPol really thought it was a bit of a more traffic hazard and a traffic congestion. So aim is still tomorrow. It's being assessed every 2 hours for it. So we all know the causeway is now clear and we can operate in the causeway. There will be some traffic, I guess, restrictions due to a bit of damage to the road surface, but the issue we've still got, I guess, is in Mooroopna itself, allowing traffic to flow around Mooroopna in the streets that are still closed, and there's still a fair bit of water around the Mooroopna Street. So Causeway, we are working on it. We are really passionate to get it open, like I'm sure the community is. We just need to make sure it's safe to be able to do that the best we can moving forward. That's quick. Peter, do you want any more? That's a quick, I guess, overview.
I think that's probably enough for the moment. We can come back to you at the meeting, right? Thank you very much for that. Now, I should have noted also at the start of the meeting that tonight we are live streaming and have screens at most of our emergency relief centres and also in Bill and Beats in Mooroopna. Now, questions can be posted or comments placed at any time, but we'll hold the answers until the end of the meeting. So please forward questions through and we'll have a look at those as we go. So our next presenter is Guy Teeney. Guy Teeney's had a long experience here in the Goulburn Valley, Statutory Planning and Floodplain Manager with the Goulburn Broken Catchment Management Authority. Guy, please talk to us about river and rain and anything else you might like to talk about.
Thank you, Peter. Look, we do work collaboratively with the Bureau of Meteorology, and our role is really to assess the rainfall runoff and what it means to our catchment gauges. And from the catchment gauges and predictions by the Bureau of Meteorology, we, over the last 25, 30 years, trying to do studies to work out if you get a certain gauge height, what does it actually mean for the community? So we can plan and we can help our emergency services and incident control centre, help incident controller here next to me. And you want to know if you get a certain height, what does it mean to communities about buffer flooding, around properties. So what we call the flood intelligence team. We have a team of 3 or 4 people at these incidents. But I must say, leading up to this event, we've been in monitoring mode for probably 2 to 3 weeks. And I dare say we've been monitoring mode for the next 6 to 8 weeks, depending what happens. But it is good news that I think we dropped almost by 0.8 of a metre at the Shep gauge here. And but we are seeing some residual water lying around certain streets. And so I'll just leave it at that and see what the questions come up tonight, Peter.
Okay.
Thank you.
Guy. Thanks for that. We next go to the Victoria Police, and we've got Inspector Bruce Simpson with us here tonight. And Bruce is going to talk to us about a whole range of things, road closures and security. But as I've been driving around, and as Shane's been driving around, we've been meeting various people, including the police, and we're noticing that they've come from all over the state to assist us in this response here in Shepparton. We really appreciate that, Bruce, but over to you.
Yeah, thank you. As Peter said, we've been fortunate enough to get significant support out of other places in the state, particularly Melbourne, and that's enabled us to maintain a level of our normal business here in Shepparton, but also to support the control agency around the traffic, the evacuation, and also just general liaisons, and also our statutory role as coordinators. So we've got staff in the ICC supporting that. We've been staffing the police control centre, the incident control centre. That's been moved to Wangaratta and now being staffed by people from Melbourne, which has freed our local staff up to look after our own community. The key things for me, some of the activities, that we've been involved in, we've got our presence at the relief centres, so to provide some reassurance there. Obviously our traffic management points to try and ensure that the people aren't putting themselves into, the public aren't putting themselves into difficult situations or risky situations. We've got our general patrols going on, obviously. We've had some challenges being split in two by the Goulburn, as everybody's had that same challenges, so, we're not immune to that. The key things for us at the moment going forward is that as the roads slowly get opened, we just ask the community to just try and refrain from going sightseeing. The roads are still in quite damaged condition, so there'll be roadworks going on. There'll be other services repairing infrastructure and requiring access, and there'll be people trying to clean up their houses and the like. So please Be patient on the road. Don't go into areas that you don't need to go into, and keep them free for others to use who do need to go into them. And that's pretty well the key point. I think, like Ray said, the causeway is a key issue for us, and there's another road that we're keeping a close eye on, and that's High Road in Murchison. That's problematic as well. So that's where we're at with police.
Thanks, Bruce, and you've been giving great support to our emergency relief centres as well, providing that security there. Well, the questions are coming in, which is great, but we'll keep going and we'll go to health next. And we obviously appreciate the importance of health and the health services and the hospital here in Shepparton. Coming out of COVID, how important were they through the leadership of Matt Sharp and all his crew there did a fantastic job. No different in this emergency. Health is very, very important. So great to have Will Cross, the Clinical Director of Golden Valley Health here, and Angie Bone, Deputy Chief Health Officer from the Department of Health. Welcome both. Will and Angie. I might start with Will first, if that's right, Angie. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. Fine, Angie. And Angie, just excuse me. No, we're getting a message through that we cannot hear you. So we're just testing the technology. Matt, how are we going?
Water and sewer and come back, please.
Yeah, okay. Sorry, we might shift to Daniel and do water and sewerage and come back to health. Apologies for pulling you up there, and we'll see if we can sort the technology there. Daniel Flanagan, General Manager of Operations at Golden Valley Water. Daniel, how are we going with water and sewage?
Yeah, so I can give a bit of a general update and then I'll go through town by town to give as much information as I possibly can. So in general, pleased to say that our drinking water supplies have remained safe in all towns within the city of Greater Shepparton. We did a lot of pre-planning, particularly at the Shepparton Water Treatment Plant. Our sandbagging held up and there was no issue with the treatment or the quality coming out of that facility. That's the same right across the board, and I'll talk about those in a minute. In terms of our sewer system in general, as you didn't hear from Angie, but during the height of the flood, people would have noticed issues with their sewer system. It may have been slow to drain, toilets may have been slow to flush, or you could have heard a gurgling noise within the sewer. That is because the sewer system had, the river had inundated some of the sewer system, so it was much slower to get away. Now, we did see some of our sewer system surcharge, and that would have spilled out of some of the manholes. It was primarily stormwater. However, we do encourage all of the community to stay clear of floodwaters, as it could contain small amounts of sewer. I'll go through town by town. I'll start with Shepparton. So Shepparton, the water treatment plant, which also supplies Kyalla, Kingupna, Tallygaroopna, Toolamba and Maroopna. It continues to operate. It was safe to operate during the floods, and we don't anticipate there to be any issues with that supply going forward. Staff are on site 24 hours a day, and we are adapting the treatment processes to cater for the different water quality we're receiving because of the floods. In terms of sewer for Shepparton, we have a lot of sewer pump stations in Shepparton, about 60. I'm pleased to say all of those sewer pump stations, with the exception of one, are now back up and operational. In a few low-lying areas though, you will potentially still notice some of that, water being slower to drain away as the sewer system catches up. There's a lot of water to move. It will move, but it will take some time. In terms of our wastewater treatment facility out the road, it has been surrounded by floodwater, but no floodwater has got into the facility, and it is operating as normal, so there's no issues there. Maroopna, as I said, it's supplied water from Shepparton, so the water is completely safe within that area. The sewer system in Maroopna is a bit more challenging. We have around 8 of our pump stations that are still offline. We have teams working to assess those and bring them back online as soon as we can. We have set up several diesel pumps at some of the critical pump stations. They will run, but we will turn them off at 10 o'clock at night because they are quite loud, and we know that people are moving back into their homes and would appreciate that. So they'll turn off at 10 and we'll bring them back on at 6. We've sent text messages to people within the area of those pumps. Again, the Maroopna Wastewater Management Facility is operating as normal. Murchison, the floodwaters have moved through Murchison, but they were affected earlier in the week. Again, the water treatment plant remains operational and the water is safe. We did have some issues with the sewer system in Murchison. We appreciate the community's patience with us there. We did return service there yesterday, and the sewer system is now catching up. So that one should be back to normal as we would expect probably today. I do say that there are those sort of intermittent issues with the sewer. If you're experiencing anything that is acute, please jump on our website and call our faults and emergencies number, and we'll assess that and see if we can respond. But that's probably it from me. Key message is, yeah, water is safe and we don't expect there to be any issues with that.
Good on you, Daniel. Quite amazing, really. The nature of your business is to have water treatment and sewage close to the river, and in a big event like this, to manage that and keep those services, essential services, going is really quite an achievement, so well done. I think we have the technology sorted, so Angie, let's go back to you and see how this works. Nope. Sorry, Ange. Matt, are we not working?
Maybe give me a couple more minutes.
Okay. Ange and Will, we're just going to hold you for a little while until we have another go. We're quite hopeful we can get this going and here. We might switch to questions at this stage and come back to you. So the first one, what about the forecast for the approaching weather? Now, Ray or Guy, who would like to?
I'll put the summary here. Yep, I can have a go. Ray and I did attend a session with the Bureau today in the afternoon, and we gave a bit of a prognosis into the weekend to Sunday. The following was mentioned. Thursday we can expect some light rain, not much out of that, and on Friday we can expect generally 5 to 10 millimetres of rain. And in isolated areas, top end of Eildon was mentioned, we could see possible totals up to 20 to 30 millimetres of rain. And Saturday in the northeast, generally round about totals up to 20 to 30 millimetres. And the weather is going to be quite still, so if there's some isolated thunderstorm events, it could be isolated totals somewhat higher. But the 72 hours cumulative totals could reach over 72 hours, 3 days. up to 30 to 50 millimetres and isolated totals associated with thunderstorm activity up to 70 millimetres. Going into Monday and Tuesday is a bit unknown at this stage, but we said, but did mention there's a tropical incursion occurring, meaning, but it's not well defined, and the Bureau working on assessing that further, so we'll probably know a bit more later in the week.
Thanks, Guy.
And I'm happy to add to that.
Thanks, Ray.
I just want to add to that, I guess, our instant control centre Shepparton is not closing. We are going to run 24/7 for a fair period of time, which means we can give you very accurate and up-to-date warnings and information flow on a 24/7 basis. So the next period of time, which potentially run to next week or beyond, we are running 24/7 to make sure that we give everybody up-to-date information and warnings when required.
Thank you. And there's sort of a follow-up question. Sorry.
Yep. Look, the next question, will it flood again? Can I just mention a big shout out to the Bureau of Meteorology. They're working tirelessly behind the scenes and helping us understand what the rainfall means to our river systems. We do meet daily, and what they will be working on when it rains, they do forecasts, they do modelling, and also provide us scenarios what potentially might happen. So we can't predict that right now. With the rainfalls over the next 4 days, we're not expecting any major river rises at all. Maybe sustain the rivers themselves, but no renewed peaks at this stage. But working with the Bureau has been fantastic with the scenarios we can work with, and when things go in, we can actually plan. And like I said, we are working 24/7 with the ICC.
Yeah, thanks, Guy. And reminder there to look at all the various council websites and the SES websites.
Bureau of Meteorology, yep.
And the Bureau particularly, there's some really good information there on river heights and how they come up and go down. And that's the message about ensuring people are aware. Make yourself aware and make yourself available to all the information that's out there. Ray, did you want to?
I'll just make a sell, and please, if you haven't got Vic Emergency app, please get Vic Emergency app. That's our one point of truth where all our warning messages go out, all our advice messages go out. So we start with advice, then we move up our warning section. So please, if you haven't linked in and registered for Vic Emergency, please do. That's our one point of truth for all emergencies in Victoria, where you can get up-to-date information. So please do register on that site.
Yep. And I think one of the key things we found during the incident was the floor level data through the Catchment Management Authority. It's another great source. Go into their portal, their flood intelligence portal, I think it is, Guy, Goulburn Broken Flood Intelligence Portal, and you can actually put your address in there. You will find your floor levels and you can compare that with how the flood's going, and it actually tells you the difference between your floor level and the expected flood. So lots of great information out there. Right, next question will go to the causeway. Where do we find updates on the causeway? Will the damage be checked? Are we checking, has there been any structural tests and all that sort of stuff? Is that you, Ray?
Yep, that's me. So we have checked the causeway. So the causeway bridges are fine. Look, in a number of places, the bitumen has bubbled due to water damage. So the water has gone into the bitumen and bubbled it, but that's not stopping us from travelling it. So we are letting essential services off it. As I said before, it's not the causeway. So the causeway will be under restricted speed and potentially one lane with traffic control in place when we can open it. The reason we've had to keep the causeway closed is we're not comfortable safety-wise of still the amount of water around Mooroopna and roads, which we hope will go down tomorrow. We're trying hard to get open. We are working on a 2-hourly basis doing the check. We're all trying to get open, but we just can't open it until we can get more accessible areas in Mooroopna to do it. So the causeway is fine. We'll be under restrictions. It has bubbled in a few places, but it's really the water around Mooroopna that's the issue in the minute. Clarify essential services. Look, as you know, the military were operating across the causeway during the flood and providing resources backwards and forwards to Mooroopna. We've since opened it to other emergency service personnel. We've opened it to council for essential services. We're allowing milk tankers on there because we're trying to get milk processed, as opposed to, unfortunately, we had to dump a fair bit during the peak of the flood, so we're allowing milk tankers on there. And we did allow a Woolworths truck through today because we're still hoping to open Woolies in Roopna tomorrow morning, so we classify as essential services. So we are allowing what we classify as essential services through the roadblock block to do it. But I want to read it. The causeway is fine. It really is. We need that water to recede around the streets of Roopna, hopefully overnight, and we can do something tomorrow morning. But it is a 2-hourly check at the moment. During daylight, we are really keen, as everyone else is, to get that causeway open.
Thanks, Ray. And if one thing this event has told us is the importance of that causeway, the importance of linking two major cities, Shepparton and Roopna, and Tatura, west to east, how important is that? And that causeway does go underwater, so we really need to do something about additional crossings, obviously. Right, Daniel, I think we're back to you. Is there a reason why my water tastes a little dirty, and that's coming from the Kayala Lakes area?
Yeah, so good question. So essentially what we're seeing is our treatment plant is absolutely treating to the water to a quality where it's safe, but the conditions within the river are changing really rapidly. So our team on site are optimising the treatment process, but what we're seeing in terms of, in some pockets, there may be some taste and odour, will be because of some of those organics within the river can get through and taint some of that water. Now, it's absolutely safe, but we acknowledge there may be some minor taste within that water. The team on site are analysing that and changing the treatment process pretty much hourly to try and optimise that. But as you can imagine, the river is changing quite rapidly at the moment in terms of the organics within that water.
Right, okay. Thank you, Daniel. I might go to the section I was going to do now, and that's in relation to waste and cleanup. You know, with emergencies, they typically start with a response and then a recovery, but they usually overlap, and particularly with this flood incident that's going through, we've seen that Murchison, you know, we're a response, and then Shepparton response, and now sort of out in Bunbartha, there's still a significant response going on. But there's recovery happening already. So recovery starting in Murchison, for example, and that'll come through and be more serious in Mooroopna before too long. So the recovery sort of stuff that we're doing in relation to cleanup includes in Murchison at the moment, the location of skip bins at various parks. So we've got the Murchison Rec Reserve, JC Park at the tennis courts, the Historical Society, or near the toilets there in Murchison. We have skip bins, and because the bridge hasn't got authority to open yet, we've got a skip in the grain yards opposite the Murch East Hotel on the other side. So plenty of opportunity for people who are in clean-up mode to utilise those skips. We will empty those as soon as they become full, and as the workload increases, as the volume increases, we'll increase the service, and we'll get that to our transfer stations and our landfill as soon as possible. You'd appreciate, with all this rain, our transfer stations and landfill have suffered. So we are in a position to open up our landfill tomorrow, so that's good. There's been a lot of work done to make sure that that's ready to go. And our Ardmona transfer station is ready to go tomorrow, and the Wanganui and Murchison transfer stations will be operating as soon as possible. They're all subject to the water going down and access, safe access being provided. We'll move into Mooroopna shortly and have similar locations. I haven't got those locations for you at the moment, but we'll have large skip bins located around, and we're encouraging as many people as possible who have got the resources to do so, to do their clean-up and take to these locations and put in the skip bins, and we will remove those. If you can get to a transfer station, please help us and get to the transfer station. If at the end of the day you're someone who hasn't got that capacity, talk to us about that and we will come out and assist. This is going to be a big clean-up effort, and will require everybody pulling together, because council alone does not have the resources to do this. we'll be calling on contractors from all over the place, and I'm sure there'll be lots of volunteers, as we've seen in other centres, to help with this cleanup. So let's all work together, and we'll be organised, and we'll make this happen. Council is providing this as a free of charge service. You will not be paying to go to the transfer station during this cleanup, and it really doesn't matter who you are. We won't be checking to see where you've come from. Come in and utilise our transfer stations, and let's get this cleanup done as soon as possible, because that's what we want. We want to get up and going again, and I've been out there and I know people are already in the streets doing their thing, and just want to get going. And Shane was over at Maripna, and we're talking to Bill and Beats people. You know, they're providing a fantastic service over there, wanting to get up and provide food services for everybody that's having a go. And it's really a story about the whole community. This community response has been superb. We saw that in the sandbagging right from the start, didn't we, Shane? Just the community outpour, and it was a little bit uncontrolled, I guess, at the start, but it was amazing.
We got it done.
Amazing how it come together, and it works so well. So it'd be the same with this bigger component, which is the cleanup. And I know everybody talks about that and gets a bit concerned about whether there's going to be support for that or not. There will be support, okay, as much as we can provide, and we're already out there trying to do it. Now, we're quite respectful, as Bruce was talking about, I think, with the water and traffic going through water. We don't want to get into places where we're just creating waves, and that's just creating more mess. So there's another put out to the public. Please just don't go driving around whilst people are trying to clean up, and we're trying to clean up as well. So that's a little bit about clean up. Another question coming through. Yes, the Flood Damage Hard Rubbish Collection Council. Yes, well, I've just talked about that. That's well and truly there. There'll be information on our website to give you further information about that, but it's pretty well as I explained, and we'll roll that out further as we go. What support will be provided to those whose homes are deemed unlivable? Impacts of construction industry, lack of rental and housing. I'm going to call upon Lana to come to the seat over here and perhaps just give us a broader comment about funding support, if that's possible. Lana, I'll need you to come to the table there with the speaker. There's obviously assistance, federal and state assistance available, and that information will be on the website, but I might just get Anna to give us a little bit of her knowledge, if that's okay.
Probably not going to directly answer.
No, just there, yeah. Whilst Lana's doing that, I'll get Louise to come over here, because I might get you to talk about the evacuation centres. A general question, Lana, in relation to government support, what grants might be available and that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's the state at the moment.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, thanks for that question. It's a really great question. There's a lot coming through. So as mentioned before, there'll be some rapid assessments done to those sites. So there has been some announcements through the state government at the moment. Again, we've got the flood recovery hotline that's set up by the state. So for people to give that number a call, which will be posted in the comments shortly around that assistance. Just to reiterate what's been said today, this is a process that needs to follow, and the response part at the moment is being done to the best they can. So if people are still isolated right now, the relief centres are open to deal with that first impact, and then that assessment will be done to further provide support. From a federal government perspective, recovery is a long time. It's not a sprint. It's going to be a marathon. So we'll be here to support that. We've got conversations happening through Shane at the moment, and Peter and everyone else around from our community, to really get that information into government so that we can ensure that that support is provided.
Thanks, Lana. And just the next one, how do people declare their need for assistance? Are you across?
Yeah, that's a really good question. There's probably a couple of different ways from a need to assessment, pending on case by case there. So is it a need for mental health support? Is it need for food? Is it need for basic necessities? Again, I just really, for the person that's asked that question, or if there's anyone else online that is needing assistance, we don't know what we don't know. So please use the support that is there for you and come forward so we know what we need to do.
Yep, that's good advice. Thank you. Sorry for putting you on the spot, but
No worries.
I knew you were up to it. Update on internet outage and mobile tower issues to Tura particularly. Ray?
Do that one? Yeah, look, and not sure about the Chura one, but we do still have some Telstra outages due to water egress in their, I guess, repeater stations. They are working on it. We do have a Telstra representative in the ICC 24/7. They've got 3, I think they're working on. They're pretty confident, hopefully, to have them respond by tomorrow night. They just need to be able to get into them, check their infrastructure, do what they need to do. They have a lot of technicians around to do it. So hopefully they're pretty confident by tomorrow night they'll have the last 3 of the mobile phone towers that are out back up and running.
Very good. And I know during the peak of the incident, when there was a lot of water in Marupna, there was really good work to keep telecommunications assets going right in the peak of the night with lots of water around. Really good work done by a range of people, including our staff. The next one is, how do we dispose of sandbags? That's a good one. I'll take that on notice, but...
Want me to answer that one?
Yeah, great.
So there's two things here. So if your sandbags have been impacted by water, they're no good to you anymore. So treat them as contaminated and please treat them as hard rubbish removal like other material. If they haven't been impacted by water, they haven't gone hard on you, may I suggest you think about trying to store them in a safe place. I don't want to scare you, but let's try to reuse what we can in the way of the sandbags, because a lot of effort, as we know, has gone into filling. Well over 200,000 sandbags. Shepparton, let's try to, the next couple of months, I'm not scaring you, but let's say if they haven't gone hard yet, they didn't get impacted by water, if you've got a safe state in the side of your garage or somewhere, please, let's reuse them so we don't have to fill out another 200,000. But if they have gone hard, they were impacted by water, please treat them hard rubbish, treat them as contaminated, so please, gloves, and use them as hard rubbish collection.
Good, thanks Ray, good advice. Okay, update on curbside bin collection. Yep. So tomorrow, we have put a post out on this. So tomorrow, the Thursday normal curbside collection is back and going. So the trucks will be out and about and we'll gradually take them right throughout the municipality. So effectively, curbside collection is back up and going now that we've got landfill back and going. We will not be going into any streets that have water in them. I think you appreciate that. We spoke about that, but it shouldn't be too long, and we'll be able to get around to everywhere, but back and going. I need to remind you about the volunteer register on Council's website. Yes, we're getting lots of volunteer, or not requests, but offers of volunteer, and please go on to the to registrations. Volunteering is interesting in a crisis. It's fantastic, and as I've mentioned with the sandbags, what a great thing that was, and we're going to see that with the cleanup. When it comes to things like food and clothing and that sort of stuff, it can be a little bit problematic, to be honest. And if we just get a flood of food, it's hard to manage, and food can go off and needs to be treated properly. So we really appreciate the food donations that have come in today. They've been fantastic. Number of local companies that have been bringing around whole heaps of food to, you know, the sandbag locations, to the emergency centres, you name it, into the council office for people working and what. It's just been absolutely sensational. But we just need to manage that a little bit. So please get on the phone, register and tell us, and we can control that a little bit. Why road closure signs when there is no flood water on the road? Yeah, okay. Yes, I think this is a resources issue to some extent. We put the road We identify where the water's coming up, we put the road signs out, and then the water goes away and the signs stay there. It's just a matter of resources getting round to get those signs down. They will come down in time. I don't think there's any other comment to that, is there, Bruce or Ray?
Look, you've got to realise in the Greater Shepparton LGA, at the peak of this, 185 roads were closed, and these are main roads, were closed, both council, I guess, and Rural Roads Victoria. Roads, they're playing catch up, and it wasn't only signs, we had to put barrier tape across from guidepost to guidepost. We ran out of signs, so there's a lot of different ways we close the roads. It's just a case of, as they come off, we work very hard with VicPol, we do traffic management points, we work through it. There's a process of opening the road at the same time. It's just, as Per said, logistically, we're working through to get those signs down.
Thank you. We've got a few more questions, but I might just go to Louise. The emergency relief centres, the numbers are coming down at the moment.
They absolutely are.
For example, Macintosh Centre was at 400 at one stage, and that's a lot of people to have in those sorts of facilities. I think we're down to about 200 there.
That's
if
right.
You want to just give us a bit of an overview of how they're going? And
yeah, absolutely. Very happy to. So obviously, last week, when it appeared that there was a present a threat to life, we stood up those emergency relief centres very quickly, and then ramped up even further and managed that on both sides of the river, and then progressively kept adding on additional emergency relief centres, which provided really essential life-preserving support to our community, and also linked people up to the navigating people to the services they need to get by in the next little while. So now that the emergency warnings have come off and the water's subsiding a little bit, and people are able to go and see their homes and sort of assess where they're at. Department of Families, Fairness and Housing, some of the people from Wangaratta have been great, showing people around, taking them out, helping them just have a look at their houses, and as a result, we're really seeing those numbers decline. We'll obviously keep the relief centres open. We've got a model that can scale up and down a little bit now. We know that continuous improvement is really important, so where there's been, some sort of niggles and teething problems at those centres, we're working through them and keen to learn a lot from this experience. It's something we've probably never seen in Shepparton before, I would guess, that to have a response at this level. So we're learning an awful lot about how to do this kind of work. We just wouldn't mind, while I'm on relief, just touching on the response at Maribna this morning, because we know that that's been a community, along with Murchison, that's had a particularly hard time. So we've had food drops into Murchison today, but we knew that Maribna was a site of particular need, and as soon as that emergency warning came off, we had the shops that were open in the main street, we supported them to serve the community immediately. It wasn't long after that the food boxes started dropping over there, and we just kept that, really it was actually Lighthouse, GB Cares Volunteer Network, and also of course Food Share, along with Ethnic Council and others, all just were working really hard today getting those food boxes out. And I drove through Maribna a little bit later this afternoon, and it was good to see those food supplies landing and people collecting those. So just want to make a special comment of those groups. And just particularly, while I've got the floor, just note that Rumballara have got a hotline up and running now. GV Pride are reaching out in the community, and there are plenty of other supports and all of our wonderful services coming out to support our community in this time of need.
thanks, Louise. Very good. Covered off on some of the other stuff I was going to talk about, so that's great. Thank you. Now, back to the questions. Possible time frame. High Road, High Street, Murchison, yeah, so that's the Merch East, is that the Merch East?
Link between Murchison and Merchants.
Yeah, that's right, and the bridge. Someone comment on that?
Look, I'll talk about the bridge. We're hoping to have the assessment done on the bridge in the next 3 days. We have real fears the bridge has moved from anecdotal evidence and a quick assessment we've done. We will do the assessment of it in the next 3 days. So Rural Victoria are going to go in and do the assessment of it. They need to get engineers in there, they need to do a really good structural of it. So it's at least 3 days. And then I guess we'll put information out around what it means if it is structurally damaged and the bridge needs to be worked on. So that's the best we can do at the moment. We'll keep information going. But while we're talking about the bridge, can I encourage, please don't drive across it. We are having people go around the barriers and drive across it. We are classifying that bridge as a dangerous scenario at the moment, so please, I know it's a long detour, we understand the frustration of extra detour, but we are classifying that bridge as dangerous. We've looked at it initially. Roads Victoria, we have concerns the bridge has moved, hence why we're keeping it closed while we do some significant structural integrity of the bridge, and then a decision will be made, and we'll certainly give information to the Murchison community on what that means, short, medium and long term with council support.
Yeah, thanks, Ray. So that just reinforces, with the causeway down and the next option 40 k's down, out of action as well. That's a big impact on our region. Can we confirm if the highway to Melbourne is open, Bruce? Or
Yes, it is.
Right.
It is. But once again, sorry, I'll repeat. It is open, but please, around all the roads around the area, please take your time. Be careful. We have potholes. We have water over roads that have damaged the surface. We deliberately open the roads. We want people to egress, but we're really saying to people, please be careful. And I'll give you an example. Rural Roads Victoria did an assessment of the Hume Highway. Between Broadford and Benalla, there are 785 significant potholes on the Hume Highway, let alone all the side roads and everything else. We have significant damage, so please take your time. It'll take them a long time, whether we like it or not. Potholes aren't fixed quickly. Damage to road where the water's gone across aren't quick fixedly, so please be very careful on the roads. Be careful, very careful driving off the roads. It's still very damp on the sides and some of the sides the roads have collapsed a little bit, so please drive with care, but the road to Melbourne is open.
Thanks, Ray. Yep.
Can I just add to that? With the potholes, people damaging their cars with potholes, cars on the side of the road repairing wheels and tyres and so forth, also our construction workers who are trying to do the repairs, please just take it easy, be patient and don't put others at risk by your driving. Thank you.
Thanks, Bruce. Yeah, so the Hume is bad, but the Golden Valley is probably even
just as bad, yes.
Even worse, worse, I would say. Yeah. So take it easy for sure. When will roads? I think we've talked about potholes. Lots of questions around Lemnos North Road. Is there an update? Will it get worse? So there's some of our rural roads. They are being impacted, and that's some of the water coming through. Guy, you've spoken about how the water comes through when it breaks out of the Broken in a big flood, and the Broken has been very high. So it's all coming through, heading through Lemnos and Kingup Valley, Katandra, and it will be affecting the roads in those areas, the Shep East, Lemnos sort of area. So we'll be, from a council's point of view, looking after those roads and trying to keep them in repair as soon as possible. But again, please just realise that resources are stretched, and we're trying to assist and provide support to the emergency incident as well as do our normal stuff. So, right, I think we're getting some health information via dot point. So I do apologise that we haven't been able to bring the health section to you tonight, but this is only one of many sessions. We've had 2 of these sessions already. It was 2 or 3 weeks ago we had a session in the Macintosh building and talked about the event coming and how to be prepared. And then we've had a session down at the senior sits as we started to get into this incident, this emergency. Now we're having tonight, and we'll have more. So we will have the health section back, and they can talk to us direct. But here we go. Matt Sharp, if you're watching, please excuse me for giving the health advice. Floods present many potential health hazards. And for the audience purposes, I'm reading from some notes, dot point notes that have been provided on the screen. Never walk, swim or drive through floodwaters. Keep children and pets away from flood impacted areas until the cleanup is complete. So we have been observing people running around and playing in the water, which is fun, I know, but there's a health advice, okay? Please stay out as much as you can. Skin contact with floodwater and mud from floodwater can cause illness and skin infections. Floodwater is not clean, so may have bacterial and viruses that can cause diarrhea and vomiting. Avoid contact with floodwater as much as possible and wash your hands frequently. That's a fairly serious message, so please abide by that. If you are injured or suffering a cut during your cleanup, clean the wound and contact your doctor immediately. When cleaning up after a flood, wear protective clothing such as sturdy footwear, loose long sleeve shirts and trousers, and heavy duty work gloves. Interestingly, when we're doing the sandbagging, a lot of people did that. They come dressed appropriately. They had their boots on and hats on, and that was really good. So really encourage that in the next stage when we're doing this big cleanup. Come prepared. Do not use, there are many things you should be aware of before you return to your property. Flooding can cause sewage to overflow inside your home, or gas or electricity supplies may be damaged, and a qualified electrician or plumber will need to deem them safe. The structural integrity of your home may also be affected. That's very important advice, yes. So check and be sure. Do not use a portable generator indoors. Yes, this is the fumes issue, as they can produce carbon monoxide gas, which is invisible and you cannot smell it. If it builds up in the home, garage or caravan, it can cause sudden illness, loss of consciousness and death. Yeah, these are all great points, aren't they? If you have lost power or for more than 1 hour, it is possible to consider food safety. Once cold or frozen food is no longer cold or to touch, it can be kept and eaten for up to 4 hours, and then it must be thrown away, or if it was raw meat, it should be cooked and eaten. So be very careful about the temperature, particularly, yes, if you've had power go out and your fridges have gone off. Animals, including rodents, snakes, I've already seen lots of snakes around, or spiders, may also be trapped in your home. Yeah, shed or garden, be very careful. Flooding can cause mould, yeah, that's an important one, which must be cleaned up before moving back into your home. If you need to check your property and make repairs, remember ladder falls can lead to serious injury or death. Make sure your ladder is suitable for the job and it's set up correctly, and that another person is at home to hold your ladder. These are all the basic occupational health and safety issues that during normal work arrangements we're very conscious of. In an emergency, it's just as important. It's important for the volunteers. Please abide by this as much as possible. Where do I get to, Matt? Sorry. Protect yourself from mosquitoes. Yes. Japanese, help me with the word. Capillitis, something like that. Yeah. Close enough. Please, you can get vaccinated for that, but just protect yourself. Spring flooding can mean more mosquito biting and breeding, including the ones that can carry diseases to make you sick. Mosquitoes like stagnant water. We expect an increase in numbers from about 2 weeks after flooding. We take regular samples of mosquitoes and have not detected any viruses that are harmful to humans this season so far. That's reassuring. Avoid mosquito bites, cover up by wearing long, loose-fitting clothing and use mosquito repellents containing picaridin or DEET, D-E-E-T, on all exposed skins. Empty stagnant water around your property as soon as you can. Septic tanks during power failures and floodings. A lot of the rural areas have got septic tanks, so this is relevant. If your wastewater system has been affected by a power outage, minimise water use and contact a plumber to have it assessed. Do not use or flush your toilet until you know that the septic tank system is intact. Health emergencies during a flood. If there is an medical emergency and you're unable to call 000, you should travel to your closest hospital. Local GPs and pharmacies may be able to help. However, they may be closed due to flooding. You may also want to contact Nurse on call on 1300 606 024. If you or a family member has COVID-19, you can leave your home to travel to a safer location, say hotel or with friends or family ahead of an emergency, And as always with COVID or any ailment, if you're not fit for work or to socialise, please stay home and until you're feeling better, so that those diseases are not spread. Mental health, yeah, I'm glad Angie and Will have raised mental health. It's regularly raised in our community as a major issue, particularly during this event though. We need to concentrate on mental health. It's normal to experience a range of emotions following emergencies like the recent flooding happening throughout Victoria. Look after yourself and reach out to your loved ones and neighbours. It is a stressful time. Talk to people, yeah, go to your neighbours, talk it through and grab the assistance that's being provided. If you're feeling overwhelmed or concerned about your wellbeing, you can call Mental Health and Wellbeing Hubs for free support. And one of the numbers here is 1300 375 330. Now, Nicole, we will have all this information online somehow, I would imagine. So watch out for our website for that. Community information, the department is providing, working with local government, LPHUs. Anyone know that acronym? Public health units, local public health units, I would imagine. Health and emergency services to provide up-to-date information and advice. Visit our Better Health channel and the Vic Emergency Relief and Recovery websites. There's good advice for more information. Okay, apologies for being just reading that out without knowing a lot of the knowledge behind it, but do appreciate Will and Angie for providing that information. That was quite thorough and very important health advice.
Can I see another couple of quick tips? Is that all right? Yeah, a couple of quick tips. So just on top of what was great information, just a couple of quick tips. So if you've got gas to your house, you turn your gas back on and it sounds like it's gurgling, you've got water in the pipes, please turn it off and get it checked professionally. The other one is if your house has been inundated, even underneath, if you've got your electrical wires underneath your house or the water has inundated your property above the power points, please, even if you turn the power on, it works, please turn it back off and get it professionally checked. What history shows that unfortunately, even when you turn it on, there is potential for your house will burn down because the power in the walls will take. So please, if your wiring's underneath and is exposed, or if you have had inundation above the power points on your property, please get it checked before you turn it on to make sure it's safe.
Thanks, Ray. We have got more questions to go through. We have set aside an hour, but if we need a little bit longer to go through these questions, that's fine. In general, a shout out is the next point. A shout out to, it says the Tatura community there, but really the whole community for the great support and efforts. Tatura, yeah, were really good because they stood up, not impacted so much by the flooding, but stood up for our emergency relief centres at Ballantyne Centre and Victory Hall. And again, the community came out, supported with catering and all sorts of stuff. Animals were kept on the ovals and the tents on the oval and all that sort of stuff. So well done, Tatura. Really great support for people that were impacted, and great that there's a resource there that we could get flood impacted people out of the way who couldn't get across the causeway to a really high standard facility. A call out to all our other rural communities. This is not just, the bigger centres, Shepparton, Marupna, Murchison. We know that Undira and Bunbartha and those communities, we know that potentially with water coming through from the Broke across that the other communities I mentioned before, Katandra, Talligarupna, Kingupna may be impacted. So look, we're attempting to support all those rural communities as well as the big centres. So please don't feel left out and take advantage of all the support that is available. When will V-Line services resume? I don't have the answer.
I can give that one.
On your own.
So V-Line have started the work on the line, so they have significant culvert damage. They also have overline damage, which takes the ballast out. With the ballast gone, they need to put the ballast back because that holds the tracks in place. They can't give a line. They are working on it fairly hard. A lot of companies, they will get back as soon as possible, but they do have culvert damage under the line, and where the water's gone over the line ballast, they need to put back. They need to do the culverts first to get the trains on to put the ballast back on. They're hoping as soon as possible. They will certainly run the bus services now the road's open, but the train service may be a little while they try to fix their damage to operate safely on their lines.
Thanks, Ray. That's good. Right, why are certain areas not draining? Yeah, example, Lenny Howe Hall, if I got that, Rodney Park, and Marupna. Yeah, look, there's a number of places that are not draining. Now, that may be that they're just naturally low-lying, or it could mean that the drains are blocked and we need to get in and get the drains blocked. There may be areas that actually rely on penstocks to be turned that are a protection between the high water and the drainage system inside and outside of a levee bank. So we do need the river to go down before we can open up those penstocks to allow water to drain out of other areas. Now, as a backup to that, we can pump, but we've got limited resources to do that pumping, but we will try and do as much as that as possible, and some of that happened in Murchison, to pump over the levee whilst you've still got high river, so that we can improve the lot for those low-lying areas. Does anyone else want to comment on those? No, that's okay. Thank you. Wildlife, yeah, I wanted to come back to this and talk about the magnificent service that's being provided for cats and dogs and rabbits and goats and sheep and a whole range of animals at our relief centres. Louise, do you want to comment about that?
Yeah,
Sharon Terry's doing magnificent work there.
Indeed, and just want to acknowledge that that's logistically a tricky area, and bringing sort of pretty complex groups of people plus animals into into a complex environment, I should say, is a bit of a challenge at times. And animal rangers have sort of become a bit of a critical resource and unsung heroes, I think, of this piece, and we're always after more of them. So we're very grateful to Wangaratta for providing some of their rangers in recent days to help us fill that breach, because it is quite essential to the harmonious running of those emergency relief centres.
Yeah, we should note that not only we've got rangers from Wangaratta, we've got emergency staff from Tawong, way up in the hills. I remember when the bushfires were on, we were all over there helping them. Probably the smallest municipality in Victoria, and here they are back over here.
Returning the favour.
Us, how good is that? We have support from a whole range of other municipalities as well. But particularly wildlife, what do we do if we encounter a roo? Yeah, there was a roo jumping down the causeway, and there's been a number of them. I guess not a lot we can do individually with roos, but there's wildlife services that do deal with that, and we can call upon those. Snakes, the same. There are snake specialists that we can call upon, so if you've got snakes in the house, look those up, or if you need to contact us, we can give you advice in relation to that. I think we're on the final page, Nicole, for questions, is that right? Close, okay. When will sandbags be available again?
Okay. I guess we have to move with the flood. So as you know, we have moved the sandbag facilities and the capability down to Barmah to assist those communities. We need to move it. So they recorded them today, and we'll work there again tomorrow, I guess, until the water starts to receive. The next time will be, I guess, when we get the predictions, we work, and potentially, not that we want it, another flood of significance arrives where we need to sandbag. So we need to move with the floods, which we've done. So next time will be, hopefully not, but I guess when the next flood is predicted, we'll certainly do the same again, set up the sandbagging machines, work with the community, and as we said, the community did a great job, work with the community to fill more sandbags to support the community.
Thank you. There is talk about levee banks increasing around Shepparton. Can GV health workers cross the causeway? Are they essential?
I'll go to the second one if you want, Peter.
Go with-
Second
one.
second one. So GV health workers are classified as essential workers, so we are allowing the health workers to come across to the hospital and the other facilities, and we are classifying them as essential, and they were notified 2 days ago of that.
Thank you. We'll go to the levy banks. This is a interesting one and always contentious. Levy banks are not part of our flood mitigation strategy in relation to our recent flood studies. But I'll hand to Guy because Guy knows this backwards, and he answered this question or similar question at the Macintosh Centre session, and you did it quite well. So over to you, Guy.
Thank you, Peter. The issue about flood mitigation was investigated quite heavily with the community. We had a community reference group of some 100 people, community representatives, and what we found with the levy options, it pushed water too far to one side to disadvantage others, and we found it was quite unworkable. And so what the community opted for is a better improved total flood warning system, meaning augmentation of the rain gauge network and also the stream flow gauge network. And we worked with the Bureau of Meteorology to provide better flood prediction services to Benalla, and that's now in place, and the rain network and stream flow network has been installed for quite a number of years now. And coupled with that is part of providing the flood intelligence through the community flood intelligence portal, which Peter spoke about earlier, trying to get as much information for flood warning services and flood information out there. And so it's a shared responsibility. We're all trying to help each other, and communities also can try and help best they can, provided they have the information to make decisions.
Yeah, thanks, Guy. And I think our main flood mitigation measure over the last 30 years has been our planning scheme. The planning scheme backed by serious flood modelling through the flood studies. A lot of talk about this in New South Wales at the moment as to whether, you know, those councils have got appropriate flood models and flood studies. Well, come down here and Victoria, you'll see that we've been doing this. Guy in particular, a Catchment Management Authority in partnership with councils, have been doing flood modelling very well for a long time. It is the #1 issue for flood mitigation measure. Understand where the water flows, protect the floodplain, and put development outside of the floodplain. That is the best thing we can do, and we've got to back that up with the latest data all the time. We've got to improve our flood modelling and redo that every 5 or 10 years. There's a new project we're doing at the moment to reassess all the floor levels in partnership with the CMA, and that's going to be fantastic information. You'll be able to go on that portal again and get the most accurate information. So I think levies, yes, in an urban situation are sometimes appropriate. In rural situations, we know that that issue always comes up. They're old and tired, particularly in the rural areas, and there's no real support for those. So it's the difficult question, and I don't know that I can provide any more information than that, other than we do our best with our planning schemes. Now, so I'll try and bring this to a bit of a conclusion. I'll remind the community to look on the council Facebook page. We will be posting the questions or follow-up questions if they're not addressed tonight, or any of the outstanding questions if they're not addressed tonight, and we'll attempt to answer those questions, as many as possible. So please have a look at that. I'll repeat the flood recovery hotline call, 1800 560 760, and that's for navigating available support, clean-up, temporary accommodation, mental health and wellbeing. I'll hand to Shane to give a final wrap-up. Could I just, before I do that, acknowledge the work at the Incident Control Centre, just 24/7, buzz intense work led by SES and Ray and his team just absolutely superb, but backed up by everybody around the table. Can I put a big thank you out to my staff? Just superb, great work. And I'll hand over to Shane to wrap up.
I haven't got much left to say. So, no, look, obviously, thanks. And in concluding, firstly, thank you to Peter Harriott for obviously chairing the meeting and our panel members here tonight as well. Thank you so much. The priority was to bring the best people together to give you the most informative and reassuring information that you can have at this particular point as well. So thank you for being here tonight. I will just take this very brief opportunity to just very quickly, and we will get around to many people between what has taken place last week and where we're at now and where we're heading, to thank so many individually. But on a broad note, I need to acknowledge the multiple emergency services that are out there still going, got into things straight away as well. So we thank you for your efforts at this particular point as well. As mentioned, thank you to council staff, our Chief Executive Officer, Peter Harriott, and executive leadership team. I know there's no doubt many watching in our own council emergency response unit upstairs, you would call it. Thank you. I've seen you guys in action, unbelievable, and staff at the relief centre as well. You guys are doing a power of work behind the scenes. Obviously, Ray in the ICC control room as well, many people involved in that as well. Thank you. Deputy Mayor Anthony Brophy and my fellow councillors as well, thank you for your efforts at this particular point as well. We've got a lot of work ahead of us and we're going to get into it as well. Most importantly, a resilient, strong and supportive community. I cannot reinforce that anymore. Unbelievable. The way we've come together, as Peter said, with the sandbags, so many times we had to sit back and watch it, and we're going to be calling upon you again. We've got a big clean-up and we need to support each other, and that's the most important thing, is coming together. This is a big community effort. Not one organisation can do it. And I'm calling upon you, other members of the community are going to call upon you that need that support, and we've got to come together, clean the city up and get on with things. Most importantly, remain calm. The information tonight was to provide calmness within our community. The support is here. There's a lot of work going on behind the scenes. It's going to be ongoing support. We're talking about 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There are people on the ground getting the information for you to feel comfortable and remain calm. The city's going to get open and we're going to get on with things and build it back to the way it was. So thank you and good night. So.